In this video, we're going to look at the ablative some more. We're going to look at three more uses. One is the ablative of attendant circumstances. Another is the ablative of manner. And the third is the ablative with verbs. All these topics are covered in the Grammar for 4B on page 215. Let's first talk about the ablative of attendant circumstances. Here the word attendant means something like surrounding. If one action attends another, it sort of surrounds it, it's in its vicinity. So this really means the ablative of surrounding circumstances. So sometimes the ablative indicates that an action occurs with some surrounding circumstances. Here's an example. Caesar cum magno dolori populi mortuus est. Caesar, mortuus est, died, cum magno dolori populi, with great grief of the people. Of the people is a genitive, magno dolori is ablative. Of course, cum is the word with. So this is Caesar died with great grief of the people. What this is saying is that when Caesar died, that action was surrounded by great grief. So great grief attends or surrounds the action of Caesar's death. These ablatives of attendant circumstances often translate awkwardly into English if you translate them literally. Often they don't sound good, and it's often better to actually change the wording a bit to make them sound more like English. So instead of saying Caesar died with great grief of the people, you might say, to the great grief of the people, Caesar died, or something along those lines. This ablative is usually used with cum. So you notice this cum here. It's usually used with cum, but sometimes the cum is left out. So instead of saying Caesar cum magno dolori populi mortuus est, you might say Kaiser magno dolori populi mortuus est. No cum. These are both correct, but this ablative is more common with the word cum. Now we come to the ablative of manner. The ablative of manner tells in what manner an action is performed. Here's an example. Nuntius in forum cum celeritate ingressus est. A messenger entered into the forum cum celeritate. Cum, of course, is our old friend, the word for with. Celeritate comes from the word celeritas, celeritatis, feminine, which means speed. It's obviously from the word celer, celeris, celere. So this means speed. So this literally means with speed. So this is the messenger entered into the forum with speed. This sort of ablative, the ablative of manner, usually has a cum, but if it has an adjective, the cum is optional. So we can say, in aedis magna cum cura ingressi sumus, we entered into the house with great care, with a cum, where magna cura is an ablative of manner, with great care. Or we can simply say, in aedis magna cura ingressi sumus, we entered into the house with great care. Both of these are correct because you have an adjective magna here. If there's no adjective, you must use the word cum. If you have an adjective, the cum is optional. By the way, it's easy to confuse these with ablative of means. Remember the ablative of means where you use some object to do something, like I broke the window with a rock? The difference between this and the ablative of means is the ablative of means indicates some tool, some usually concrete thing that is used to do something. This is not a concrete thing that is used as a tool. Instead, this tells the manner, and it's usually an abstract noun, something like the word speed or bravery or things along those lines. Let's review now for a moment all the ablatives we've seen that can be translated with. You have now learned several ablatives that can be translated into English with the word with. Among them are the ablative of accompaniment, which we learned long ago, the ablative of means, which we learned a while ago, the ablative of attendant circumstances, which we just learned, and the ablative of manner. One of these always uses cum. The ablative of accompaniment always uses cum. Two usually use cum. That's the ablative of manner and the ablative of attendant circumstances. And one never uses cum. That's the ablative of means. That never uses cum. Let's review these. Let's start with the ablative of accompaniment, which we learned long ago and you may have already forgotten. That's the ablative you use with the name of with the person to indicate that you're doing something in the company of someone. For instance, if I say cum marco lampsacum abeo, this means I go off to Lampsacum. Remember, with the name of a town, you don't need a word for to. So I go off to Lampsacum cum Marco, with Marcus. So the ablative accompaniment indicates that you're doing something in the company of a person, and it always has a cum. So it's always a person or people, and it's always with cum. The ablative of means is something like this. Dominus servum pugnis verberavit. The master beat the slave with his fists. This is an ablative here, with his fists. It tells the tools or the instruments with which the master beat the slaves. This is always something that is used as a tool. It's usually a physical object of some sort. In this case, fists, but it could be a hammer, a rock, anything you use as a tool. It is never with cum. You never use a cum with the ablative of means. Now let's move to the ablative of manner. Here's an example. Milites cum fortitudine pugnabant. The word fortitudo, fortitudinous, feminine, means bravery. It's obviously from the word fortis, forte, brave. So this means the soldiers were fighting, pugnabant, cum fortitudine, with bravery. It's always some abstract quality, speed, courage, fear, and so on. It's not a tool. It's difficult, as I say, or it's easy, shall I say, to confuse this with the ablative of means. But the ablative of means is always some tool. This is not some tool. This is some abstract quality with which you do something. This expression, or shall I say, the ablative of manner, is usually with cum. Usually with cum. Cum is optional when there is an adjective. So, for instance, if you say milites magna cum fortitudine pugnabant, the soldiers with great bravery were fighting. The soldiers were fighting with great bravery. Because there's an adjective here, you can leave out the cum, and you can say milites magna fortitudine pugnabant. So if there's an adjective like magna with the abstract noun, you can leave out the cum. But up here, you must use the cum because there's no adjective with fortitudine. So the cum is optional when there's an adjective. Let's talk about the ablative of attendant circumstances one more time. Here's an example. Magna cum laude mea studia perfeci. I completed mea studia, my studies. This is my studies in Latin. This is an accusative neuter form. The word for study is studium, studii, neuter. So this is I completed my studies. Magna cum laude, with great praise. This indicates some surrounding circumstance. It's not a tool, and it's not a way of doing something. So the point of this statement here is, I completed my studies, and there was great praise when that happened, sort of as an attendant circumstance, as a surrounding circumstance. I did not use great praise as a tool, so it's not ablative of means. I also did not use great praise as a manner of doing this. This is a circumstance that surrounded the actual action. Okay. This ablative, the ablative of attendant circumstances, is usually with cum, but not always. Let's finally talk about the ablative of verbs. We're done with our review of the ablatives that are translated with. Let's talk about the ablative with verbs very briefly. Some verbs require the ablative. It's just a fact. Two big ones are utor, uti, usus, sum. For instance, stilo utor. Utor means I use a stylus. I use a stylus. We would expect in English the word used to take a direct object, an accusative object, but in Latin it takes an ablative. That's really hard to get used to, but you will. Another one is the verb fruor, frui, fructus sum, which means to enjoy. Eo vino fruor means I enjoy that wine. Notice this is using an ablative. In English, we would probably expect this to be an accusative because we think of enjoying wine as involving a direct object, wine. But in Latin, you use an ablative. So some verbs just simply require an ablative where you might expect in English a direct object in the accusative. The two most important ones are utor and fruor.
The end. This has been a Barking Blue Heeler production.